You are listening to TMBDOS. They must be destroyed on sight. Discussions of an adult nature, adult language, and spoilers for the films discussed are most likely. Still on board? Come on in. Enjoy your stay.
They must be destroyed on sight.
Okay, we're back. It is episode 114 of They Must Be Destroyed on Sight, and I'm your host, Lee. Well, no sandwiches for him, Russell, and I'm joined by my co-host, Daniel. This isn't just another disco drug deal, Harper. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing quite well, and indeed it is not. Indeed it is not.
So we're moving into a foray of sort of oddball sci-fi films, mostly from the 80s. I think we've also decided we might peek into some stuff from the 90s as well. And these are going to be sort of more off-kilter sci-fi stuff, I think, for the most part. I actually have a feeling this could be in danger of running as long as our noir series did.
As much as I enjoyed the noir series, and as much as I would enjoy kind of doing these for a while, let's try not to push it quite that hard. But I think we could do. I think we could do this for a while. These are not just kind of fun to watch, but they're fun to talk about, which I think is kind of the key. And so I'm looking forward to it. But we do have a list of films, and if you like this episode, we're always down for recommendations for films.
Right.
There are a ton of these. I certainly haven't seen them all. So
what we're going to be covering in this episode is Radioactive Dreams and Cherry 2000. But before we get into that, we do have one comment from last week, and this is from Mike Murphy from Badasses, Boobs, and Body Counts, who we're soon going to be guesting on his podcast in February. He says, an excellent episode, guys. I jotted down a couple of films to add to my list while listening. For the record, Daniel Harper is 100% correct in regards to the second Galaxy picture. Man, does it drag in the second half. This is Guardians of the Galaxy he's talking about. It's also guilty of too much CGI. I get this sort of movie requires CGI, but fuck, this one bleeds CGI at the end. And have you noticed that every Marvel film that comes out now is over 2 hours long? Is that really needed? No, I don't think so. And he says, sorry I didn't send in a list. Why? Well, we're doing our best of this week, and I didn't want to spoil or give away that early. Fair enough. Although I will say, I think Doctor Strange was actually under 2 hours. So,
yeah, and that's one of the better ones of the last few years. Although I think that one kind of suffers because... if Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 suffers from, kind of having this extended climax that goes on just a bit too long, Doctor Strange really, I don't like that movie's first 30 minutes. It's once he's sort of training and, he kind of lightens up a bit and you sort of get more of a character. He's such a righteous prick at the beginning. Yeah. And even more so, that, not even in like a fun or entertaining way. He's just a righteous prick. In ways that, I really don't feel like we needed that necessarily to justify the character.
He comes off as the non-alcoholic Tony Stark kind of right. So you might be an asshole, but he's not a fun asshole.
Right. It's sort of the worst parts of Iron Man 2, or the beginning of Doctor Strange. I actually rewatched. My wife was. It's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is on Netflix now. My wife was watching it, and I kind of sat down, and it bothered me less, sort of watching it casually on my television, as opposed to sort of the theatrical experience, where I feel like, it's not. When you say too much CGI, that's usually I have an issue with the way the CGI is used, right? And the movie is too long. It's usually sort of it's too long for what reason? Or, there's something, it's sort of, I'm not, this isn't against Mike. I think that's a valid criticism, but it's usually I'm unable or I haven't really thought about the way to articulate the actual issue I'm having here, right? And I think that the real issue with Guardians 2 is just that the main plot line, the sort of the daddy plot line, it kind of just isn't all that interesting. I mean, Kurt
Right.
Russell is good, but the other stuff in the film is way better than, sort of that kind of main through line. And since that main through line isn't all that compelling, it doesn't really quite, the ending of the film kind of relies so heavily on it that we just kind of don't follow it in quite the same way.
Right.
I feel like, I mean, the idea of like, my dad is a god really should not be something you sort of shoehorn into the second movie in a trilogy. Maybe this deserved, either to not be here, or it deserves a little bit more time, or maybe it'd be really funny if he's like, oh, dad's a god, oh, fuck that shit, and just killed him immediately. That would be, let's not do the, like, we're going to play catch with, giant energy balls of light kind of, plot line.
It feels like I don't know how they have this planned out. I mean, I know Marvel has pretty much everything set in stone for their plans for all their phases and shit, but I mean, it's pretty obvious there's probably going to be a third Guardians of the Galaxy movie, and maybe that's sort of tying in with the Infinity War or whatever stuff.
Well,
so
we know that the Guardians are going to show up in the Infinity War movie, because originally it was going to be Infinity War Part 1 and Part 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they've sort of, it seems like they've adjusted that. And like Infinity War is one thing. Apparently Infinity War like changes everything. And then we're going to like get dramatically different kinds of movies starting with Infinity War Part 2, whatever they're calling that now. So it sounds like they're really kind of working in the direction of sort of basically getting rid of some of the, like, changing up the core cast a little bit and kind of mixing things up. Because, Robert Downey Jr. is not going to live forever, and I mean, he's kind of contracted out for all this shit he's got to do. I mean, he's been making these for 10 years. It's time. We don't need Robert Downey Jr. in these anymore.
But yeah, I was just thinking it felt like that sort of daddy plot line, that was something that should have been like an overarching storyline for like 3 Guardians of the Galaxy films instead of just sort of becoming the big major thing in the second one. So they just kind of, it kind of felt like the same problem Spider-Man 3 had back in the day, where they rushed a bunch of different plots into one film. But I know how much Mike Murphy hates us talking about superhero films, although he brought it up this time. So
the real lesson is don't talk about the Marvel movies on a movie podcast. And so I like to talk about the Marvel movies as often as possible, because I think it is a legitimately sort of interesting franchise. They're doing some weird shit with that franchise.
Yeah. But there you go. Thanks for the comment, Mike. And
we are no longer invited to be on his show.
We've just been kicked off. They can find 2 other schlubs to fucking fill in the spot for the Zodiac Killer. Yeah. So moving on, we'll talk about what we've watched in the last little while. So I know you have a couple things there, Dan, so I'll let you go first.
Sure, and both of these are from the 80s. I watched the Dario Argento film Phenomena, which I think was released in the U.S. as The Crawlies or The Creepies or something like that.
Creepers.
I mean, this was just on Amazon Prime. It was one of the free, like, if you have Amazon Prime, you can just watch this sort of thing. And I was just flipping through the movies, and my wife looked up and went, oh, is that Jennifer Connelly? And I hadn't even twigged to, like, oh, that's Jennifer Connelly. It can't be. Click down and like, wow, holy shit, this is Jennifer Connelly.
Yep.
We're watching it. Done. This is a film that, as much as I'm kind of laughing at myself, because one of the issues is that this is a little bit too long.
It is.
Which is to say, it's very deliberately paced and in ways that don't necessarily go anywhere or do anything. You could easily cut 30 minutes from the sort of first half of this film and really not affect the overall experience of watching it in any way. Other than that, I actually pretty much enjoyed it. Jennifer Connelly's good in it. It's kind of supernatural girl plot that then kind of becomes horror movie at the end. I assume you've seen the film.
It's essentially like a mashup of the 2 sort of big genres that Argento always sort of works in. So it's kind of a mashup of giallo murder mystery kind of stuff, that sort of aesthetic. And then it's got the supernatural, almost Carrie kind of plot to it, and where, she's telekinetically linked to insects and stuff like that, where she can control them, right? And then it's got Donald Pleasance and a monkey for some reason as well. Just
my wife completely missed the monkey at the beginning, and then when the monkey starts showing up towards the middle and end, she's like, "What the fuck is going on with this monkey?"
Oh, well, that must have been an experience then. If she had
it
caught
was.
Yeah.
I mean, she was like playing on her phone and kind of like not really watching it, all that. I mean, I will say that I have a pretty strong stomach, and there is one moment in this film that I was very nearly retching at, which take that as what you will for whether that's a recommendation or not. And it comes very much towards the end, and it involves a whole lot of water.
Oh yeah, okay.
And I won't spoil it for the listeners, but I'm sure you know exactly which moment I'm referring to. And so otherwise, pretty decent flick. I don't know that I have anything more to say about it. I mean, if we were going to review it, I could probably do kind of a more in-depth dive on it. The other thing I watched was one that I had been kind of been on my long list to watch for many years now, and I just never saw, and that's FX. Okay, this is the mid-'80s film where a special effects artist gets hired by people he believes to be witness protection to fake a killing, and then he gets involved in this plot. It's this very sort of very 80s kind of comedy of errors action movie during big parts of it. It's a really clever little film that I think people aren't necessarily as familiar with as I'd like them to be, just because it is one that I had I kind of knew it by reputation for a lot of years and just had never seen it. The ending kind of just doesn't quite work the way I'd like it to, just because this guy ends up murdering a whole lot of people and just kind of gets away with it. And apparently there's a sequel. Brian Dennehy's in this. He's quite good. And overall, just an effective little fun movie. And again, if you've got Amazon Prime, you can watch it, you can just sit and watch it. So enjoy.
Yeah, not only was there a sequel, I think there was a TV series as well.
Like
in the 90s, where all these popular 80s franchises sort of get resurrected as TV series, like Highlander and stuff like that,
Yeah, that sounds familiar now, like FX the series. I mean, I can imagine this is sort of, I don't know, it's almost too clever to be a movie, right? It's almost like, and then they have to use special effects wizardry in order to solve crimes, It sort of works more as a sort of cheesy TV series, that you'd see.
Gimmicky, like film, like MacGyver or some shit,
like a USA Network kind of thing today, It's kind of amazing to look back at the sort of the effects work of the mid '80s and kind of go, that all kind of makes sense. Like the movies the props that he has in his little studio apartment look like stuff that might have actually come out of a movie made around that time. It doesn't feel like the parody version that they always do for these things. It looks like I worked on, Deathgasm 3 or whatever, I made the prop. It was good. No, I was kind of watching it and just kind of imagining like it is this kind of era that's lost. Like now they just do all that with CGI, whether it's, for better or for worse. I think that there are positives and negatives to that, but the idea that a sort of generic special effects guy would just have this whole bag of tricks that he could just kind of pull out and use in various situations, it just doesn't ring true anymore. They're all just kind of, software development guys, basically.
It's kind of a rewrite of the inversion of the James Bond thing, where Q is the hero instead of the spy master.
Right.
I only have one thing to mention. I just recently watched. It's Wind River from 2017. It's a Taylor Sheridan film. He wrote and directed this one. He wrote Hell or High Water, which I really love. 2016 was on my best of list. This is a movie starring Jeremy Renner and Elizabeth Olsen. So the good Olsen twin, or actually not the twin, just the other sister, the respectable one. And
each birth in that family has X amount of talent. The problem is that the twins got it divided by 2.
Yeah, actually, I think they just lost some of it in birth as well. But yeah, and I mean, Jeremy Renner, who I actually like more and more every time I see him and stuff. It's kind of weird. I always had this sort of feeling that he was cast as a pretty boy early on, but he's an ugly motherfucker. He's actually kind of an ugly dude. And in this kind of a handsome ugly, if that makes sense, kind of like Daniel Craig, where everyone goes, oh, Daniel Craig's such a sex symbol. But if you look at that guy, he's not a traditionally handsome guy by any sort of means, as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, enough of that nonsense. But it's a murder mystery that's set on an Indian reservation, and one of the things that really stuck with me in this is it's sort of a neo-Western in the way it's presented, and it treats the Indians actually as people, with real lives. It doesn't whitewash the actual problems on the reservation, but at the same time, it's not necessarily going too deep into those societal problems. It's much more just kind of let's actually build a realistic world around these characters in this situation. It actually makes sense, and it's not just, background nonsense. Oh, look at the poor Indians in squalor, they must be on an Indian reservation. No, it actually deals with the day-to-day lives and stuff there. And it's a really effective kind of old-fashioned Western kind of idea in it, and Jeremy Renner's just really good. Like, he just acts circles around people with this sort of minimalist acting, and he's basically a wildlife and games guy who works on the reservation, but he gets brought into the murder investigation because he lives there, knows the people, and Elizabeth Olsen is the closest FBI agent brought in to help investigate or whatever. And she's just this rookie FBI agent from Las Vegas who's flown into this place or whatever, and she doesn't know the people, she doesn't know how things work there, so she gets him to help do tracking because it's during the wintertime, so there's all these winter tracks and everything, and it's just really effectively done. I think maybe it misses out dramatically here and there in some parts. Like, I think it gives up too much of the background of the victim. It shows flashbacks that no characters actually have. It just takes you back to those sort of moments near the end of the film to show what led up to the events of the murder. So I don't really like the way that was brought into it, but I understand why they did it at the same time, because they wanted to make the victim more three-dimensional or whatever. But yeah, overall, really great movie. It's already early on my best of first-time watches for this year. So
awesome. Sounds good.
All right, so we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back and we'll start talking about movies.
You ungodly warlock.
This is a distress call from across time and space. I am Babs, the automated biological support system for the humanoid known as the Witch. Witch vs. the Doomsday Clock is the weekly chronicle of his fight for survival and entertainment on the junk heap of the future. Episodes are transmitted in 15-minute pulses across the dimensional divide weekly for your listening pleasure. As you will learn, the future is not set in stone, and a flux capacitor is a girl's best friend. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, SoundCloud, TuneIn, and on your Android device. Come join the rest of the Meat Popsicles in our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/Witch vs. the Doomsday Clock. The replicant known as Witch can be found on Twitter, Facebook, Tumblr and Instagram by searching for THEWYCH. The Witch vs. the Doomsday Clock is a proud member of the Legion Podcast Network. Now in the words of Lord Humongous.
Just walk away, and there will be an end to the horror.
Badasses, Boobs, and Body Counts is a weekly podcast that discusses all things grindhouse, exploitation, drive-in, and B-movies. Your three hosts, Mike.
We're going to discuss the Rene Martinez directed picture, The $6,000.
Wait, whoa.
That's the name of the movie.
Super Soul Brother.
That's the name.
When you start the
Look
movie,
at your DVD cover.
when you start the movie, the first thing that comes up is the title, and it says
$6,000.
Mark.
And I've been around a girl stroking a horse's dick.
Somehow, somewhere down the line, I'm going to use that clip against you.
Shh. Do it. Please do.
And listener favorite Iris.
The deployment sock. And I'm like, deployment sock? What the fuck is a deployment sock? He goes, you know that sock that you just use? Oh my God, you guys are so gross. See, so it happens for real. People do come in socks.
Will make you question your political correctness while laughing at theirs. Episodes drop Sunday and can be found by searching for BB and BC Podcast via iTunes, Libsyn, Stitcher, Google Play Music, and everywhere else you can download quality podcasts from. You can also listen to episodes directly from the show's website at bbandbcpodcast.com.
Looking for something different in your podcast library? Then why not check out the Podcast Under the Stairs? I'm the host Duncan McLeish, and joining me each week will be a special guest as we examine some classic, old school horror favourites, as well as some modern classics. That's not to say that we don't tackle some of the, let's say, more questionable entries into the horror genre. And if all that wasn't enough, we have a subset of shows called Baz v Horror, where our horror novice, the Baz, tackles horror in all shapes and forms to see who will come out victorious. So what are you waiting for? The show can be found at podcastunderthestairs.wordpress.com and on Stitcher and iTunes. The Podcast Under the Stairs is a proud member of Legion Podcast Network. This is Duncan McLeish from Under the Stairs, signing off.
You ungodly warlock.
Okay, first movie up is Radioactive Dreams from 1985, and there's no trailer. Well, there are trailers, but they're all in Spanish and German, and we'll get into why that is eventually here as we talk about it. But it is directed by Albert Pune, who is probably best known for doing the first Cyborg movie for Canon. He also, before this, he did Sword and the Sorcerer, which is also really good. And he directed the first ill-fated Captain America movie in the 90s. and he has a ton of other credits as well. He's got a bunch of...
I was looking through this list of movies, and I'm like, this is a list of things we need to cover at some point, you know? We could do a whole series on these just because, I mean, just on title and sort of summary alone. You know, he's got the Kathy Ireland film Alien from LA.
Yeah,
which you know, I mean, Cyborg. We got to do Cyborg at some point, and the sequel Cyborg 2, which I thought was him, but I think he did Kickboxer too. So I just had the Jean-Claude Van Damme sort of connection there. But I was looking at that and going like, yeah, we've got to do a bunch of these films at some point. You know?
Yeah. So we got starring John Stockwell as Philip Chandler. I think you'll see where some of the elements of this film is going when you hear the names here. But John Stockwell is Philip Chandler, and actually he's from My Science Project. That's where I remember him from. He's the lead in that. Michael Dudikoff, American Ninja himself, as Marlo Hammer, way back before he became an action star. This is a geeky version of Michael Dudikoff. Michelle Little as Rusty Mars, Lisa Blount as Miles Archer, Don Murray as Dash Hammer, George Kennedy as Spade Chandler, Norbert Weiser as Sternwood, Christian Andrews as Brick Bardo. More on that name later, by the way. Paul Keller Galen as Chester, and Demian Slade as Harold. I did not get a synopsis for this. I forgot to pull it, but it's essentially what it is these actually, it's kind of followed the video game to a certain degree because these two kids are thrown into a nuclear bomb shelter just before nuclear war starts, and they break out of it 15 years later after spending their lives malnourished and reading the detective novels that their quote-unquote pops left for them when they abandoned them in the shelter. And now they're heading out in the new world with their 30s or 40s style detective costumes and haircuts, and they're looking to find some hot dames in this nuclear wasteland and be private eyes. And if you hadn't guessed, this is kind of a comedy and a parody of these sort of things. And I'll throw it over to you first, Daniel. What are your sort of initial thoughts on this?
Sure. This is the first time watch for me. I kind of, again, knew this one. This one has never had a US DVD release.
Nope.
I mean, it's definitely better than shit that we've seen get a DVD release. So, it's not. I think it's worthy of an actual DVD release at some point.
Yes.
But I do remember seeing it in like in the video stores when I was a kid, and just never actually rented it.
So it's a Vestron video release, like the Vestron was known for doing tons of these sort of low budget films for VHS release, and I guess the VHSs are still trading on eBay and stuff for like tons of money.
I mean, I believe it. It does have that kind of cult classic quality. I really enjoy the film in about the first half. You know, I think it's got a really kind of interesting sort of low budget surreal aesthetic. I kind of like that these guys are just a couple of losers who show up who think they're tough, but actually are actually really they get themselves into a lot of problems and don't have any way of getting out of them. I like the kind of the interactions they have with some of the other characters in the film. Particularly Rusty, she's really good. But there are only like 8 characters in the entire film, so it does kind of have that problem. But you run into like the biker gang who are all like mutants, and they're all wearing wigs, and there's definitely a somebody saw the Road Warrior element to this film, but it manages to be kind of better than the really bad Road Warrior ripoffs. It kind of does that for a scene and then just kind of moves on and does something else. Once the plot kind of kicks in, I kind of find the film, the plot doesn't really kick in. It just kind of becomes a series of music videos,
Yes,
which are very delightful in their own right. But I do feel like there's just a lot of stuff just kind of rammed together in this film without a whole lot of thought. Just sort of a lot of like, oh, this will be just kind of a fun thing that we can do. I think it's enjoyable, but I don't know that I'd recommend it necessarily.
Okay.
At least, watching this, I mean, there's obviously a kind of a Fallout connection. Like, it's hard to not think about the Fallout universe.
Yeah, Fallout obviously ripped some stuff from this. I mean, just the little Pip-Boy like things on their arms alone is definitely a Fallout thing.
It's pretty clear they did kind of like borrow, quote unquote, certain elements from this film when they were designing the original Fallout games. I really kind of wanted this to be a TV series, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like this is the sort of thing that kind of seeing this kind of basic plot of these two kind of losers kind of come out and they're looking for their dads, and there's this one unexploded nuclear bomb somewhere, and that's a season of TV today. And I feel like you could kind of do this, and you could even do this kind of surrealistic kind of pop culture comedy thing. On like a paycheck, like HBO or something. It's not hard to imagine this is sort of one of those weird TV series that just sort of finds a cult audience for a season or two. And that's kind of the version. That's kind of the way to approach this. This is the TV series that never will be.
It's funny you mentioned TV series, because there is an aspect of this that kind of reminds me of the Michael Mann TV series Crime Story from the 80s. It only lasted like two seasons, but there was one episode, and it's basically just this one episode that makes me think of this, where the two main gangsters or whatever get trapped out in a nuclear testing site just as an A-bomb is dropped. And it just sort of has that same sort of aesthetic, because, again, we're talking about Fallout here. Fallout kind of borrows the idea of... It's not really present in this film so much. It's just kind of slightly aesthetically borrowed, but the idea of retrofuturism, where everything in the future is still modeled after like 1950s kind of stuff. That's not the case in this film so much. It's much more the 1950s is transported into this nuclear wasteland via these two idiots coming out of the fucking vault or whatever. But
both of these films kind of have a little bit of that kind of 50s aesthetic brought forward. And I think that's just a sort of a function of the the Fallout shelter itself is such a, kind of icon of this particular memory of the 50s. And so, and I think we kind of connect that with time capsules. So like, oh, these guys have been buried. And so they're just going to kind of come back and be this sort of idea of this sort of idealized 50s.
Wasn't there one in the 2000s with Brendan Fraser and Christopher Walken?
There's Blast from the Past, but that was like, that the whole thing with that was like he kind of goes down. He kind of goes under in the, I think the early 60s. I think is the idea behind that one. So it's sort of a little bit. I mean, but yeah, no, that's one where they kind of play with it a little bit more, like as an overt comedy. And there was the Cheech and Chong movie Rude Awakening, where these two hippies kind of wake up in the late 80s. So, I mean, there's a ton of, I'm like the one person that remembers that film. So,
there's two people apparently that remember that film.
But yeah, no, there's a ton of, this idea kind of comes back. I mean, yes, people kind of fish out of water out of their time in a kind of a new world is not a new idea. This is not something that we think of as it's terribly original to this film. And in fact, just the kind of these two young boys just survive on their own in the Fallout shelter for 15 years and like don't kill each other or die of some illness or something. Of course, it's not meant to be like realistic, quote unquote.
Oh yeah, because it's 15 years. And the storyline in this is every nuclear bomb except for one was detonated. Even if there was any place habitable on the surface of the Earth after that, which wouldn't be the case, 15 years ain't going to clear up the radiation. You're going to probably die as soon as you step out of there. So, yeah.
Right. I mean, I kind of take that kind of opening narration as a little bit more of a, this is the myth that we're told, sort of thing. I mean, because we're kind of outside the bounds of, anything resembling quote unquote civilization, and for all that, I really like the characters in this. Although I only watched this once, I have a hard time kind of differentiating between Philip and Marlowe, unfortunately. I know one of them is supposed to be the kind of the straight-laced one, and one of them is supposed to be a little bit more off the wall, but I can never remember which one is which.
Philip's the straight man, Marlowe's the dance-aholic.
Right. One of them does close-up magic, which comes out in one particular scene. I like the women in the film. I think they do have, for a film of this era, they do have a little bit more agency and kind of interest. Partly because, there is, Miles Archer ends up being a little bit of a femme fatale. Actually, they both kind of get to be a little bit of a femme fatale.
Yeah, so. And Miles Archer, like, if a more modern reading on it, she's almost the hero of this thing because she just wants to wipe out the world and start over again, apparently.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of interesting thematically that way. There is something kind of going on. You could kind of read her as a much more interesting character, but the film kind of does nothing with it. It's just sort of kind of I think that's the biggest problem with this is that the whole plot is actually just a Shaggy Dog story with a MacGuffin in it. Of the nuclear bomb. So it's all it is designed to is drive the plot, and when you get halfway through the film, the plot becomes a chase film, and after a while it relies too much on look how wacky this world is, look how wacky these characters are, and it sort of burns out on that because there just isn't any new wackiness about halfway through the film, really. So they can't they kind of blow their wad on the budget, I think, as well. Like they just don't have enough people, and they don't have enough set pieces. They don't have enough sort of like stuff they can do. Because, again, you think about Fallout, the video game series, and there are all these like little, communities where you kind of walk in and there's some story happening, and some of them are funny and some of them are terrifying and some of them are just really bland, and it's just sort of, there's this world of, and it's not, that's kind of what I thought the film was going to be when I was first kind of watching it. It's like, oh, we're just going to kind of wander around and we're going to have little vignettes of these two guys just kind of doing their thing. So when you do kind of get the kind of the main plot, it's a little bit of a letdown for me, but I still think it's fairly effective.
Yeah, this feels like the more comedic version of A Boy and His Dog kind of idea, because it's not quite as dark black comedy as A Boy and His Dog is. I would personally recommend it because I think it's that much of an interesting oddity, and I was never like bored with it. I'll put it that like I was disappointed by the ending. Like the second half just kind of slows down quite a bit, but I was never bored with it. I liked it aesthetically. I like, even though it's not necessarily my favorite type of music, I like the sort of 80s new wave soundtrack that's sort of behind it, and how it does become a music video. There's like 2 times it
literally just becomes a music video for a good chunk of the film.
What's her name? The lead singer who's most prominent on the soundtrack, Sue Sad, I think it is. As soon as they get to the city and they get to that club, it immediately turns into her music video where she's right in the camera, looking straight into the camera. It's like, okay, this isn't a movie anymore. This is a music video. And then it ends up with those two doing their dance routine at the end. It becomes another music video.
It's like you got to get the kids involved by giving them their MTV. You know, that's that's sort of the aesthetic that you get this. But I mean, you know, this was. I mean, I was thinking because you know, we did like Malibu Bikini Shop a while back. And that's a film that literally just has a music video just dropped into it, you know, this fantasy sequence. And I feel like that's just sort of one of those, well, we licensed this music, we've got the song. It's almost like a time filler, but it sort of works within the film because it does seem like they just sort of wander onto a music video set from the era, you know? Like they just kind of like this club that they go to, like, you know, the really scary place where the cannibals are is also just a set from a 1985 new music video, you know? There is a little bit of like, you know, these kind of middle class, you know, white boys who've been living underground, and like the really scary thing is, oh my God, there are people wearing leather with piercings in their faces, and isn't that horrifying, you know? So yeah, the film again, I actually don't blame the film for that. It's kind of a fun little moment, and I do kind of, you know, there is a switch like halfway through where, you know, these two guys, they go from being complete nincompoops to kind of being badass and like mournful and meaningful. I mean, I understand how you can't literally just have them be fuck-ups for the entire film, but that is kind of one of those things where it kind of turns on a dime and then suddenly we're on a very different kind of like, thematic thing. This is something that like it wouldn't get off the page today with a film like this. They would, you know, they would kind of focus a little bit more on the script. I think audiences would just kind of expect a little bit more. Although, you know, some of the like direct-to-video shit you see now is just spat, so there's no worry about that. But yeah, no, I don't know if I've got anything more to say. The child gangsters are fun.
Oh, you know? Yeah, the disco mutants, the little bastards. And every second word is fuck from them.
Yeah. which really seems like one of those, I mean, in the 80s, that was a little bit more of a, you know, like kind of a risque thing to do, you know? It was kind of like, yeah, we got a 10-year-old boy saying fuck a lot. We're edgy filmmakers here, man.
Yeah, so, I mean...
This ain't the Bad News Bears anymore.
No, fuck no. So I think I like it a little bit more than you do. I would personally slide on recommendation, kind of a light recommendation, but I mean, if you can find it, I think it's worth checking out.
It is on Rare Lust, so you can get it that way.
Rare Lust, if you want an actual official DVD release, there is a German region-free release, apparently. But also, it's fairly prevalent, not only on YouTube in a shitty version, but black market burn-on-demands. If you search it out, you can find them.
Okay.
And I mean, the print is only going to be, you know, like the highest quality VHS generation print you can find, right, for the most part. But they are out there, and I think it's worth checking out. Box office was apparently $220,000, so I bet you that's probably double or triple the budget for this film. I saw
even in '85, you know, this does not look like an expensive film. You know,
no, I saw it listed as $7 million on IMDb, and that's obvious bullshit, I think.
Yeah, that's somebody just made up a number. I mean, there's no way. I mean, in '85, $7 million would be, you know, like high up on the. I mean, that's like $100 million movie today.
There would have been a TV series of this if that had happened. The only interesting trivia for this actually is this movie marks the first appearance of the name Brick Bardo in an Albert Pyun movie. It's appeared in 7 of his movies. It's the name Tim Thomerson, who we'll be talking about in the next movie. That's the name of his character in Doll Man. I think it's Doll Man. It's either Doll Man or fucking it's Doll Man. Yeah, Trancers is Jack Death, and Albert Pyun went on to make some stuff for Full Moon, so there's the obvious connection there as well. And Doll Man and Trancers are both the sort of big hits for Full Moon. So hits, quote unquote.
We've definitely got to cover a bunch of those. I mean, again, I'm just looking at this list and going like, yeah, I would almost just pick these randomly out of a hat of the titles of these films and say, let's just do these 2 next week. Like it just looks like a very delightful thing for you and I to get to do. This is exactly why this podcast exists, is to do Albert Pyun films, you know.
Yeah. Pyun cast.
You know, like those there's a podcast where they do like Star Wars minute by minute, where they'll do like a whole hour-long podcast talking about a single minute of a Star Wars film.
Oh my god.
And then like do that because there's just buddies like bullshitting about it, right? That's the Pyuncast, right? You just start with The Sword and the Sorcerer, and you do like maybe not a minute at a time, but you do like 5 minutes at a time, but you do like an hour on that 5 minutes. And then,
yeah, I don't think we're going to be doing the Pyun cast, but I think
that's for the hypothetical Patreon that doesn't exist premium content.
right. So if you could somehow like get into another dimension where we do have a Patreon going and get that download feed, and you might have the Pyun cast on your BlackBerry. Because it'll work in that dimension. We will be doing some other Albert Pyun movies, I believe. No doubt. Yeah, I guess we can move on now to Cherry 2000 from 1987.
In the future, the world has survived. Romance has not.
Right, so we'll say a dinner, complete sexual encounter, optional episode in the morning, right?
I gotta run this past my own lawyer.
Pleasure is strictly business. But it will be possible to have the perfect mate. A Cherry 2000.
Looks great. Thanks.
Thoughtful. Desirable. She'll never run out on him. Just short out.
Sorry, kid. Total internal meltdown. Now, you got her basic memory right here. Vocal patterns, verbal, whatever. Basic voice. Don't look so glum. Your chassis out for the count, all right? You got the chip, you go in, you pick yourself out a new model, you slide it in the slot. You got yourself your girl back in a brand new frame.
Give me a call if you find a Cherry. Cherry 2000.
Look, my friend, you're going to be a very old man, round in the middle and bone dry before you find one of those in these parts.
That's a chance I'll just have to take.
Then the adventure begins.
Why don't you hire a tracker to get into Zone 7?
We got a policy against trackers in these parts.
Nobody goes into Zone 7.
Yeah, look at one of the original warehouses down there. Girls stacked in the shelves like pies.
I'm looking for someone to go into Zone 7.
I'm E. Johnson. You're not gonna find anybody better than me, mister. I'm not a machine. Do you know where they keep these babies? We call it the graveyard. It is the worst place in the zone. Well, maybe I can get in there and find this thing, but I need somebody riding shotgun in order to make it out in one piece.
I want you to chase those birds till they drop.
If you think it's tough to meet the right people now, wait till you go looking for a Cherry 2000.
Directed by Steve DeJarnett, who also went on to do Miracle Mile and then a lot of TV. Miracle Mile is another one we should probably do at some point. That's an interesting sci-fi film.
I've not seen Miracle Mile, actually. Although, yeah, we should definitely cover it.
Yeah. Writers Lloyd Fonvielle and Michael Almerida. Starring Melanie Griffith as Edith Johnson. David Andrews as Sam Treadwell. Tim Thomerson as Lester. Pamela Gridley as Cherry 2000. Harry Carey Jr. as Snappy Tom. Ben Johnson as Six Finger Jake. Brian James as Stacy, Marshall Bell as Bill, Larry Fishburne in a small part as Glue Glue Lawyer, Michael C. Gwynn as Slim, and Jack Thibodeau as Stubby Man. And I didn't get a synopsis for this either, but I think it's pretty much sad sack motherfucker who has a sex bot, damages his sex bot.
Living in a society, there's a man living in a society which is after some kind of unspecified sort of apocalypse where they are literally just recycling things in this kind of world that they're bringing in from the outside. So, you know, the whole society is built around not having anything new. It's just kind of recycling stuff.
Right.
This man works as some kind of executive where he wears a suit in this company that's doing this. And then he goes home every day to his lovely sex bot, who has very little personality, but seems to care for him in the way that she cares for him. She is destroyed after a unfortunate dishwater incident. After some time moping around, he decides to hire a tracker where he's going to go out and find a new chassis for the memory chip that he has.
Mm-hmm.
And the tracker he hires, E. Johnson, ends up being Edith Johnson, who is absolutely fucking amazing Melanie Griffith,
right.
The pre-working girl Melanie Griffith aesthetic with the bright shock red hair.
Yeah.
And then they go off into the desert in the muscle car, have some adventures, run into some exes of Sam's for no apparent reason, and kill some things. And that's the film.
Yeah. My first question here: why is your sex bot not waterproof?
That's really the world breaking element of this, right? Like,
how many fluids are going to be on and in this thing?
Yeah, no, I mean, like if you're. I'm not an MRA or a MGTOW or whatever, and I'm not like in the market for a sex bot. But I can imagine that the people who are gonna want to at least shower with the thing, right? Like it's and of course the whole point, if you're a man who's going to have a sex bot, is she also does dishes, right? So
yeah, and I mean,
the idea that
if it's this advanced. It can do those new room massages or whatever the fuck they are that you see on the porn sites. So it's involving showering, oil, and then the aftermath of all that. So
the MRA shitheads who fantasize about the sex bot revolution making women obsolete are always very careful to say that like the sex bots must be self-cleaning.
Mm-hmm. Jesus.
So let's just clarify that. This film does take place in a post-apocalyptic 2017, which feels very of the moment in this kind of weird way.
Does it not? It's kind of predicted some things, strangely enough.
There's something really interesting going on in this film. I think. Sorry, I'm just going to kind of get into the film a little bit, if that's okay with you. I mean, I grew up with this film in the sense that I had recorded it off of HBO or whatever, and I was really into like any movie that was about robots. When I was, like 12 or 13 or whatever, So I kind of watched this a bunch, but I didn't really remember it. I just kind of remembered kind of the opening and, the little bit of nudity and then, sort of a couple of the action sequences. And that I just kind of remembered it as being like, oh, yeah, that was really awful. Like that was probably like a really shitty movie that I just kind of loved because it had a pretty girl in it who took off her clothes and it was kind of about a robot, right? But there's some really thoughtful stuff in this.
Yeah.
It's got this sort of, I don't want to say not realistic, but plausible world, right? It doesn't really break my suspension of disbelief, the idea that so you've got this sort of centralized place where they've kind of got enough of a society that they're still sort of talking about, back in Detroit doesn't make them though they used to. They've still got sort of commerce and they've got, they sort of built this sort of, capitalist system that's just built around like.
So it's a really weird sort of dystopia where they're kind of lying to themselves that things are still all right for the most part. They're the ones living in the ivory tower, but the rest of the world surrounding these areas that they live in are just desolate wastelands, Once he damages his super advanced sex bot, apparently this was the height of the models, because when he goes looking to get it repaired, the guy at the sex bot shop's like, well, we got these other newer models for you. They're not quite as advanced as the old Cherry 2000, but they'll fulfill your sexual needs. Right. But he doesn't even want that. This guy wants this robot to be able to fawn over him and placate him and be subservient to him in much more sophisticated ways than just being a rubber doll that moves, basically.
Well, there's a sense that the different pleasure bots have their own personalities and have each model kind of does its own thing in a particular way, and that's more than like just sort of the software chip that they put in their head, because he has the like thing that has all her memories on it. But there's also this, it's hard. The reference to Detroit, because at one point the guy who's working at the sex spot, the salesman guy, he's
Mhm.
like, like Detroit's models, there's a sense that like the Cherry 2000 is the old muscle car, right? That Detroit used to make, but now we're in the mid 80s. And everybody's just making these little like cars that look like electric razors and shit. They're all just coming in from Japan, So there's a sense that like it's not. I don't think the implication is that they lack the ability to necessarily like kind of build sex bots as much as like the aesthetic choices of sort of the earlier years are more attuned to what this guy wants, and this guy is kind of old fashioned in that way.
Yeah.
They go to the sex club. There's this bar called what is it? The Glue Glue Club.
Glue Club, yeah.
The Glue Glue Club. So he and a couple of coworkers go out to this club, and the whole like it's this sexual meat market where like literally there are lawyers on hand, and you like negotiate your sexual experiences before you go off and do the deed.
How fucking horrific! No wonder he turned to sex bots. I mean, that's...
well, and not only that, but there's a line, and I was kind of rewatching the film, and there's a line where it's you don't have your like card up to date, so you have to have like a license to fuck in this society, right? And he's been like off on his own so long, just kind of fucking the sex bot that he's not like they don't. He's just I'm not up to date on this, and it's what are you even doing here then? I wanted to fuck you, but if you're not, you're not legal. What's going on?
It's interesting how the sort of the flirtation works at this bar too, because the girl comes up to him and she's obviously interested. So hey, let's get on to the negotiation. She makes this image appear in this ball or whatever of her fucking some guy beforehand. This is how it went down with this other guy. So this is part of my repertoire.
This is what I can do for you, And honestly, like they're playing this off as this sort of slightly dystopian thing, but it's also like, well, there's older clarity here about what everybody expects. I mean, this is actually kind of a, obviously like getting lawyers involved every time you want to come. It's not a positive development.
That goes back again to the fucking MGTOW consent nonsense.
Right. Yeah. Like where getting her permission means, getting a lawyer involved,
right?
And signing paperwork. It seems like in a sense the sort of
it's very honest.
Well, I think about Logan's Run, right? Where the dude can just sort of order women, to just kind of come to his place, and then they, but
that's in the Omega Man as well, where women are property. Yeah, well, or not the Omega Man. Soylent Green.
Soylent Green, yeah. But I mean, it's less like he's ordering a prostitute and more like he's sort of, there are these just people want sex. I mean, it's like going online and being like singles in my area and then like finding and then like hooking up or whatever. But
they predicted Tinder basically, except for it's like Tinder is attached to this person's Pornhub site. Their personal
right, yeah. But I mean, it's in the 70s. We had this idea of this sort of free love society that just kind of becomes alienating just through kind of not being connected to anything or kind of.
Well, these are all fucking yuppies, right?
Right. Well, by the 80s, it becomes this. Oh, and now lawyers are involved because that's just what women are like. So, but this is literally like 3 minutes of the film. We've spent longer talking about this in the film.
Well, and that's the thing. This film puts all these interesting questions and front loads them in the film, and then it really doesn't explore them afterwards.
No,
kind of drops it.
Well, I think what it's trying to do, and this is what I think is interesting about it, is that it then kind of goes off. He meets E, who's the tracker, because his thing is, I want to have this experience with this person, quote unquote, this Cherry 2000 model that I kind of had before, and I want to kind of go back and live in this bubble that I live in. In his terms, he sort of is, I have a personal relationship with it. And again, I think of it like, like the muscle car. I really want, my muscle car got damaged. I can't drive it anymore, but I really love that thing. And it brought me comfort,
That's a great analogy there. That's actually so true, because I mean, dudes with muscle cars, they name their fucking cars after women.
Yeah. So when he goes off, and then the idea is that outside of the society, like she's this hunter tracker kind of character, and moving outside of this, suddenly you get this like sort of larger context of what the rest of the world is like, and so she sort of represents the free spirit because she's got the bright red hair, so of course she's like the angry feminist character, right?
She's not even that. She's so soft spoken. Like
no. I mean, I don't mean that. I mean that. Like,
I know that's the MGTOW thing.
Yeah. I actually love Melanie Griffith in this film. I mean, it's not like this isn't like a great performance, but God, I just kind of love her. And when you understand that I saw this movie a bunch as a kid and then didn't remember it until rewatching it, it explains a lot about who I am as a person, I think.
And you know what? I forgot to mention in Radioactive Dreams, the very obvious dick jokes in that one, where the guy says, "Yeah, I'm a dancing dick. I'm a private dick.
Right.
You need 2 dicks for so much money or whatever. Big dicks, long dicks, whatever."
There's kind of a homoerotic element to that, right? You know.
Yeah, but in this film, there's the very obvious joke right off the bat. If you think about it, E. Johnson takes him out of the glory hole into
out of the Glue Glue Club, right? Yeah. You know.
Well, there's a town called Glory Hole. So it's like they leave Glory Hole and go into the fucking wasteland, and
you're not going to be like having anonymous masturbatory sex any longer. Now you're coming out and you're going to see the real world and have a real woman show you the way. And then we learn that this guy has military experience back in the war, sort of thing. I mean, so which is kind of an interesting angle that it ends up there's sort of a more authentic version of this guy that maybe he's been treating. I mean,
it makes you
some of her friends and
it kind of helps you get over the fact that he's kind of a wet blanket for the first half of the film and doesn't say or do much, and then that sort of starts coming out, and then E. Johnson starts gaining a bit more respect for him. It's like, oh, you fought in the border wars or wherever the fuck it was, and yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off there. Like they meet. Some of our friends. I mean,
they meet these. What is his name? Six Finger Jake.
Yeah,
who's a great character who has a whole lot of toaster ovens, which is always a good thing to have in your friend who ends up having just a wall of toaster ovens.
But this is Ben Johnson, like fucking classic actor from the Wild Bunch, and we covered him in Town That Dreaded Sundown. He was the sheriff in that. Yeah.
So. I didn't remember him, but I looked it up and went, oh, right. Okay. I have seen this guy before. I mean, it kind of, the film structurally then just kind of becomes like a little bit of, we go into a couple of action sequences, kind of initial action sequence with the big crane.
And then the car gets
slowed down. I mean, it's obviously bullshit, but it's also like, this is actually kind of a fun little sequence, right? You know, like
the whole.
Maybe I have positive memories of it as a kid, so I'm
not gonna shit on it because I realize the reason it was done, because it's like, why not? Let's do it because it'll look cool. That was the whole decision making behind this, but it's so fucking ridiculous at the same time because, hey, the bad guys have them stuck on this big thing hanging over the fucking canyon. Just fucking point your rocket launcher at the guy in the fucking crane and tell him to shut the magnet off and drop them to their deaths, right?
Right, yeah.
But it makes for a good action scene, at least.
It's
fun.
It's like visually impressive, and I think that there are a lot of films of this era that use the magnetic crane to great effect. I mean, RoboCop and it seems like that was a big thing in movies of the 80s.
I'm really surprised Fallout hasn't done this in one of their games. Honestly.
Oh yeah, I feel
just to get to this town across this fucking desert, you have to have the crane come over and magnetize the fucking old metal fucking phone booth or whatever,
right? Or like the cage, like then you have to, and that's like, oh, make sure you don't have any like electronics on you or whatever.
Right?
Yeah, no, I could. We need to be writing for Fallout 5.
Yeah, you motherfuckers,
hire us. We work for cheap. I promise you, we work for cheap.
We only want one of the many millions you guys make every year.
More Patreon bonus content there. So they have this, and you meet Six Finger Jake. And then they have their long dialogue sequences. I mean, kind of longer than you would expect in a film of this kind. Which is made on a small budget. They didn't sell this based on like the interpersonal relationships between the characters, but you get a sense of like Six Finger Jake. You get his personality, you get kind of who he is.
I think the best scenes are the ones where Sam and Edith are like starting to fall for each other, and they actually have the really intimate sort of dialogue stuff. And then, of course, there's after Six Finger Jake is killed, where he informs Edith that he was killed. There's a good real moment there from Griffith where she's obviously distraught, and it looks pretty realistic to me. Like it's a brief moment where they're escaping in the airplane, but at the same time, it still works really well.
Right. I mean, I think the performances are a little uneven. Even, I mean, Griffith is great, but I mean, it's sort of the making of this film did no favors to the actors. That's
no. And Thomerson steals every scene he's in. Like, he just
right.
I think some people kind of think of him as like a cut rate Bruce Campbell for the most part, because he's almost exclusively just been doing B movies most of his career. Right. But no, he's really good in this, and I've always thought highly of him.
The thing for me is, like, I see him in a movie, and I know exactly. I never remember his name, but I know he's that guy who's in the movie.
Yeah.
But I don't have like a particular role I associate with him, which is to me like the mark of the great character actor.
I think his biggest role might actually just be his bit part in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, where it's during the dirt race, and he comes into the bar and talks to Raoul Duke when he's in the bar.
I've seen Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas once.
Raoul Duke is sitting in that fucking makeshift bar at the fucking whatever 500 or whatever the fucking that race is, and he's getting ready to have a beer. And Tim Thomerson's character comes in, takes off like his gloves or something, and slaps them down on the bar, and all this fucking dirt and shit comes off the gloves into Raoul Duke's beer.
I'm remembering the scene as you describe it, but I don't. Oh man. Yeah, I mean, he's just that guy. Like, I saw a ton of 80s movies growing up in the 80s, so I've seen this guy in a bunch of stuff, but I don't have any, like, particular thing. I think he's in Who's Harry Crumb, so that might be the thing, because I watched that.
He is, yeah.
Well, at this point we get to, I'm not trying to, like, recount the whole movie. I'm just trying to, like, kind of walk through, like, the experience of watching it. At this point, then, we get into, like, a little bit of a lull in the narrative, where I'm kind of unclear. They kind of get out of the pipe that they're in, and they're kind of going off, and they're trying to kind of go to this place in Zone 7 where the Cherry 2000 model is. And then they get attacked, and then, like, suddenly everything goes black, and then, Sam wakes up, and he's in this other... We just skipped, like, we didn't shoot some scenes, so we're just going to justify this by saying, whatever.
Yeah, it's like no setup. Let's just go directly to the Skywalker Ranch, which is this 1950s health club idea kind of thing almost.
When I was rewatching this, I literally, like, stopped the film back like 3 minutes and rewatched it, and I'm like, they don't justify this at all. There's just it's a complete break in the film where, like, suddenly there are people shooting at him, and then, like, he just wakes up in this other, which could, I mean, if we want to be generous to the film, and I do kind of want to be generous to the film, it's just sort of indicative of he has some sort of memory loss, so he doesn't quite remember, and so we just don't get to see it. But it also does feel like they just sort of didn't shoot some shit and just, like,
you can see why Orion Pictures shelved this film for a couple years.
Yeah, there are definitely just some, like, basic structural problems, and that's kind of the big glaring one right there. I mean, I don't expect the film to hand it to me. I mean, it's fine if they're going for this kind of mood, but it does kind of feel like the film does kind of become something very different after that break. They kind of got to a point they didn't really know what to do after this big action scene, and then just went, well, now he's going to meet his ex and her new boyfriend who has like this cult for, okay, I'm good with that.
That might have been interesting, too, because then maybe you would get some more insight into why he doesn't like relationships with real women, like why he retreated to this, but they never really go anywhere with it. They don't explore it.
I feel like it's interesting how, like, she doesn't, he meets, what's the ex's name?
Ginger. She changed her name to Ginger. She used to be like something else.
It used to be something else, but I've changed my name now. And there is this sort of idea that, well, in civilization I was this thing, but now I'm this other thing. I think there's also a sense of this is sort of one of those 60s hippie communities.
Well, it is a cult, though. Lester is a cult leader. He is.
Well, he's sort of a cult leader, but also a sort of a warlord, like the strong man, kind of controlling the society by, kind of authoritarian force, but it's very much velvet glove kind of thing. Because if you notice, Ginger, I mean, there are like a bunch of people by the pool, a bunch of the women by the pool, and like she just goes, yeah, leave us alone. And they scatter because like that's, big man's wife, right? Get the fuck out of her way. It's not like explicitly spelled out. You definitely just get the sense
this. They never go too much into detail about it, and I mean that just I think again probably speaks to structural problems with the script and everything. You know, it's just they didn't have the time for it or whatever.
Well, again, a more modern telling of this would definitely explore that a little bit more. It just feels like they didn't do a second or third draft of some of this to where they could have kind of given it a little bit more meat. But it kind of works as it is. I think the actors sort of sell it, and I think Ginger comes across as pretty. I find her pretty sympathetic. Overall, like I don't find her to be like she never becomes a villain, and I think she becomes a little bit of comic relief, like with the sandwiches, like kind of later on. But I certainly don't think that she's a like sort of this misogynistic portrayal, or like the woman, you know, like
no. If anything, like I rarely do this, but if I was to go into like the sort of more sort of feminist reading, I assume she's just a woman who keeps being disappointed by every man she shacks up with. I mean, she was disappointed
Which
with
is
Sam.
most women, am I right? You know?
Yeah, she was disappointed with Sam. She thought she maybe found a winner with Tim Thomerson, with Lester, but he just turns out to be a fucking asshole. He
ends up being a psychopath who, but he's in control of this little place in the desert, and like, hey,
but she's kind of got control of him too. Like she's kind of got him on a leash, you know. So I mean, early on, there's a scene where they're having sex where he can't say no to her. So she's obviously got a little bit of control over him at least, and she's making sandwiches for him, you know. but she kind of resents it. He makes that comment where they're going out to hunt these two down. Make some sandwiches, would you? And she just kind of gives him a look like, fuck you. And then whenever she's sitting there, like, opening up one of the sandwiches to eat them, she's kind of looking at the sandwich, kind of wish these were your balls right now. I'd be chewing them right up and spitting them out.
Well, I love she keeps offering the sandwiches to him, and he keeps, like, kind of, like, putting her off. Like, he made her make the sandwiches, and then, which, again, is, like, this sort of classic MRA bullshit thing, right? You know?
Here's another idea. At the very end, and, you know, spoilers for Cherry 2000.
Cherry 2000, which you should see. Don't, stop listening, go see it, and then come back. I think I know what you're about to say. Go ahead.
Okay, so she's sitting next to Cherry 2000 at the end of the film, and she gives a sandwich to Cherry 2000, and Cherry 2000 says, pretty. Do they start a lesbian romance?
Oh, I wasn't even going to go there.
Okay.
I was going to go, like, this is the jilted lovers of Sam Treadwell
that
fan
too,
club,
but
right?
I mean, you know, she'll be more satisfied with Cherry 2000.
Hey, apparently it's a very convincing model.
Yeah, apparently so. So, okay, I have one question for you.
Okay, go ahead.
This is probably the most important question that this movie never answers.
Okay.
How the fuck did they get that cat into the fucking empty water jug? Remember at the where he goes to the fucking motel thing there with the vaguely Asian stereotype, and there's that cat in the fucking 18-liter water jug sitting on the fucking counter. It's just there for no reason. Just like the fucking filmmakers, they put these things in this film just to fuck with people. I'm looking at this cat. It's a fully grown cat. So they had to stuff it in there as a kitten, but where does it shit? Where does it piss? How does it eat? It's just in this plastic fucking thing. And I'm like, throughout the entire movie, I'm thinking about it. How the fuck did they get that cat in there? And why? Why did they do that?
Well, you know, the in-universe explanation is that they're actually like a robot. It's a robot cat, right? You know,
I guess that's the Blade Runner ripoff where it's like a synthetic animal, right?
Well, I mean, I think of it. I mean, yeah, I was going for the original Dick story where they had, you know, like robot animals for, you know, like people who couldn't afford real animals.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I think it's just one of those surreal. I actually missed that entirely, so I'm gonna have.
That hurt in my brain. I saw that. I was like, what the fuck? And I rewound it. And I looked at it. I was like, what the fuck? There's a cat in there.
There's a lot in this film that I feel like you could rewind and watch again.
Yeah.
You know, just for picking out details.
Another visual thing here that makes no sense when they're chasing those guys, when they're chasing our two heroes in the desert, and so basically this is Tim Thomerson's entire convoy. He's got a truck. And he's got his fucking dune buggy or whatever leading the truck. That's his convoy. Stops the truck. Stops the dune buggy. All right, guys, let's move out. literally 10 fucking four-wheelers come out of that fucking truck. There's no room for those. But like
Right.
10 of them come out, and then they line up and go into what ends up being the fucking ruins of Las Vegas, where all these fucking Cherry 2000 models are.
Which is really like, basically Western town sized.
Yeah.
Like the old, like this is not the gigantic ruins of Las Vegas. Again, another. If this film were remade, you'd get a really cool sequence of they're driving through the ruins of Las Vegas. Here, we had a couple of plastic props we could throw in.
Let's just say it's all buried by sand.
Yeah, that's the way it works in this world. Yeah, no. I kind of God, where there's so much interesting like fucked up shit in this film.
I kind of
they do eventually get to so there's a love scene which
is pretty hot actually.
Melody Griffith, I mean
I've personally never seen her look better.
Yeah, no, she's phenomenal. I mean, not even in terms of she's just really hot, because it's not like there's nudity or whatever.
No, it's her fucking voice, man.
It's her fucking voice, and she looks like she's way into it. And plus, she's got this warrior woman aesthetic and this kind of like the utility belt and everything, and the sucking on her neck and stuff, exposing her shoulder is hotter than like stuff. Lots of other stuff I've seen in films like
it so teases, because the whole setup to that scene is he catches her or whatever and turns her around and accidentally grabs her by the boob, basically.
That I don't think that's like quite accidental. I think they've been he's actively kind of reaching, not quite for boob, upper chest, and once he's there, she's feeling it, and then they don't have a lawyer there present, but they're going to get it on regardless. You know what I mean?
I'll give you that, because first off, they just got through a fucking fight with a truck coming at them, and he threw a grenade at the truck and blew it up. So he basically picks her up. Are you okay? Spins her around, grabs her by the boob. Are you okay? And then it's like, yeah, I'm okay, motherfucker. Let's get it on.
This was very clearly a consensual sexual experience. Melody Griffith this is her finest performance moment in the film. And I mean that completely unironically.
Oh yeah,
she's very good here.
You're right. She's very into it. Like,
because at this point, she's also misleading him, because she has the memory chip, the Cherry 2000 memory chip. He believes it's been lost, but she's got it like kind of in her back pocket, and clearly they're kind of into each other. But Cherry's in the middle, sort of thing. It's not quite clear. Kind of, there's a little bit of a love triangle with his sex bot, which is kind of a weird thing. But it's because he's kind of emotionally connected to that life that he used to have, to that life, or that he still has, that he's kind of going back to. But she's kind of misleading him and not telling him, "Oh, I've got this thing," but it's because she's kind of into him, and she's kind of misleading him, and he's not entirely like just being a dick at this point, right? You know?
And she's disciplined enough where she's allowing for the possibility that she'll have to resign herself to still just being a contracted employee of his and getting the job done. And then, of course, also she just wants to make Six Fingers' death worthwhile at the same time.
Right. Yeah, so. Definitely. But yeah, no, they have the love scene, and then he finds out the Cherry disc still exists, and they're kind of going to get it, and they find Cherry, and she's exactly as the plastic woman that he always liked before, but now he's had a more authentic experience, and that's not the same thing anymore, I do kind of love the performance that Pamela Gidley gives as Cherry in that action scene.
Yeah. Oh, pretty. Oh, and then come on, Cherry, let's go. She slides in the pole. Whee!
She's like every MRA's fantasy of what a woman would be, But that's kind of horrifying. But the actress gives it her all, and I think it's convincing as this kind of robotic character. And
that moment where they're under fire. and he sits up and she pats dust off the back of his fucking coat. Like, that's a nice little brilliant moment. I love that.
No, there's a lot of stuff like that. Just like the way she climbs the ladders, where she's like, "Oh, I'm just gonna like climb the ladder."
Yeah.
And it's like, no, we gotta get the
move
fuck out of here, you know. And Melanie Griffith is great. I mean, just because she's completely on board with, all right, you're the shithead I always thought you were. Go and take your sex bot, fucker, but also like, you know, putting up with his bullshit at this point.
Yeah.
And then like he decides, I mean, he actually does the shitty thing of just like going like, yeah, well, the sex bot, I'm just going to leave the sex bot behind and take Melanie Griffith with me and take E with me. And they kind of fly off into the sunset and apparently go and have 1,000 babies together because they're going to fuck so hardcore. There's also this sense of we don't really get a sense of exactly how like intelligent these bots are, you know? And he put this bot with this entire, you know, memory of the relationship they had and then just like left her there, you know, with all the resources that a small child would have. And my God, that's a really shitty thing to do, you know?
Right. Have you seen the new Blade Runner yet?
I have not seen the new one yet, no.
Okay.
But AI, you know, when they stick Haley Joel Osment, you know, Monica Potter sticks him out in the forest. That's the level of what, you know, he's done to this sex bot at this point.
And there's a really interesting conversation brought up by the new Blade Runner film surrounding the idea of sort of robotic AI sex mate kind of thing. Although in this case it's a holographic one instead of a physical being.
Sure. Yeah.
But there's still a really interesting conversation explored in that film, which I think is very worthwhile talking about, that this film just really never picks up. It kind of drops.
If what you're saying is you want to do Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049 in the next episode, I'm okay with that.
Oh, Jesus. We'd have to prepare a while for that, I think. I don't think I can do that.
If you want to round out this series doing Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049, I'd be down for that.
Okay, let's do it.
Because we've discussed the original Blade Runner briefly on this show, and I'm not that much of a fan. And I would love to get the hate mail on that. But
and I will say I think the new one's a better movie.
From everything I've heard, that's true. Yeah. No,
I think it's a way better movie.
But no, so Cherry 2000 ends up with hanging out with his ex. Yeah, and I'm just kind of like, the jilted lovers, like he fucked both of you over, and 10 years from now, Melanie Griffith's gonna be sitting right there eating the sandwiches and being like, "This guy's a shithead. He's not that great, but he's cute, and I fucked him, and he saved me from the grenade that one time." You know, that's
And poor Tim Thomerson, he gets a glorious death at the end of it too.
He does get he does the climbing killer thing too, right? Because he like fall. And then he's like doing the like, I'm gonna get.
It's another inexplicable thing. Why the fuck would you lasso an airplane? Just no, don't do it. It makes no sense. Don't do it.
It's an 80s action movie. You know, nothing makes sense. It's fine.
I also want to mention Robert Zadar is also in this film.
He is in this film, yeah. And the guy, I don't have his name, but the guy. One of the guys from Blade Runner is in this film.
Oh, really?
Yeah, one of the replicants from Blade Runner is.
Brian James. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the guy who looks like Wild Bill Hickok.
Yeah. I didn't know his name, but I'm like, oh yeah, like I'm looking at him in this film, going like, I know that face from somewhere, and going like.
I love that little moment too, where they stick up Sam and his buddy's behind him, and he's all right, drop your gun, and his buddy drops his fucking gun. Not you, idiot! Jesus Christ!
So this film didn't do. I mean, the studio did not know what the fuck to do with this thing, right? And it's partly because it's way ahead of its time, because it's kind of doing a Western. It's kind of half Western and half. Well, sci-fi, you know, it's sort of kind of doing both of that. There's a little bit of cyberpunk and a whole bunch of just satire, and I mean, it's very 80s in that way. I feel like, you know, again, like 10 years later, this film would have really kind of become stuff that people remembered.
I feel like a lot of people do remember it though, because
I mean, this actually has a DVD and Blu-ray release, which I found out just
actually it's had several DVD releases. Like MGM has kept this alive for years in DVD releases. The theatrical release was very disappointing, but this shit was on cable TV for years. It was one of those films where it felt like you couldn't go a Saturday without seeing it on a TV channel somewhere, like A&E or something like that would be playing it, right?
See, I don't remember it being quite that ubiquitous. I just remember I had it I had a recording on VHS off of HBO. It had to have been HBO for that time period. And I remember it just being like something I knew of, but I didn't remember like seeing it on TV a bunch. But it might be just one where I don't remember it because I knew I had the VHS to watch whenever I wanted. So
for me,
I just never paid attention.
For me, this was always on TV. I don't know specifically if it was A&E. I'm trying to.
This also might be a Canadian rights experience versus an American rights experience.
Could be because I'm trying to clarify in my mind exactly what I saw in A&E because I'm trying to eventually either like do a podcast episode by myself or write a essay on just all the stuff I used to watch on A&E and how it sort of informed me on genre movies and what I liked and what I watched. But it was either A&E that I saw this all the time, or it was TBS and stations like that just sort of picked up movies on the cheap and showed them all the time.
Right.
So, I mean,
I know TBS did that. I just don't remember this being one of those films, but I could completely just, if not,
right.
It could have existed and I just didn't know that was, I just don't remember it. I think this is a legitimately good film. And I wasn't expecting.
And actually, this conversation with you made me enjoy it a lot more, actually. Like, I rewatched this and enjoyed it quite a bit, and just being able to talk about it actually made me think a bit more highly of it. So
I'm seriously considering buying the Blu-ray just to see if there are like kind of cool special features or whatever on it.
I think there are. I think there are some good stuff on it because it's and I'll get into those releases here in a second. But budget for
I'm
this
not trying to make you wrap up. I'm just
no. I know. Budget was $10 million. Box office for it was 14,000. Whoa,
that's well, but they didn't. The studio. This was made in '85 and released in '87.
Yeah,
they did like a brief theatrical run because for contractual reasons they have to show it in like two theaters or whatever.
Yeah, and I think they only released it in like Europe or something for a while too. It wasn't like a year later where they actually released it somewhere else too. So it was like very small release.
Yeah, I mean, but I mean, the point being that a box office release for this is not really, the studio just buried it. Basically, I mean, for anyone who doesn't know, I assume you do, but any listener who doesn't know, when films do this, it was released in two theaters for a week, it's because they have a contractual obligation with one of the stars or something, or the director, to actually do some kind of theatrical release, quote unquote. And so they basically go, we have to throw like 10 grand behind printing 2 prints of this and like putting it in 2 theaters, and then we're done. We don't, So yes, it has, there's actually a film that literally sold 4 tickets in its entire run. It made $25. And it's the lowest grossing film of all time, but it's because like it literally showed in one theater for like one night, Yeah.
So DVD info for this, MGM, their Movie Time series in 2001 is probably the best release if you want to just get standard DVD release of this. But the version that you and I both watched is ripped from the Kino Lorber Blu-ray from 2015.
Yeah.
Which is immaculate looking. It looks really fucking great.
It's gorgeous. If I had watched this high quality version of Radioactive Dreams, I think I might bump up Radioactive Dreams a little bit in my
because Radioactive Dreams really does need a DVD.
The version we're looking at looks like shit.
Yeah, it's too dark. It needs a DVD remaster. But yeah, a little on the release here. Filmed in '85, as you said, slated for release in '86 by Orion Pictures. Due to reasons unknown, this never materialized. The film would make its American debut in '88 on Orion Home Video. So it didn't even get a U.S. theatrical release. And it only got a release because it was capitalizing on the fact that Melanie Griffith was in Working Girl in '88. Mm-hmm. So that's how that happened. And also, note on the soundtrack here, it's widely known for the Basil Poldaris score, which is pretty fucking great, I think. But the soundtrack album that was prepared for the release was canceled And then it was picked up by Verisay Saraband, which is a label, and they released it, but with incorrect track titles and incorrect times and stuff. And then eventually, again, it was released in 2004 alongside No Man's Land. It was like a double feature track thing for Basil Poledouris's two different films he scored in 2004 from Prometheus Records. So if you want to pick that up, that's also really good stuff. So there you go.
Yeah, no, the score is actually one of the better qualities of this film. Definitely worth checking out. Both of these films kind of have, I mean, it's very 80s kind of music styling. Both of these films kind of worth calling out the music as kind of its own thing that's kind of worth remembering, even aside from the films. Although, Cherry 2000 is kind of worth seeking out for itself.
Yeah, so I think we both have pretty high recommendations for Cherry 2000. I have a bit of a recommendation for Radioactive Dreams. You kind of,
I think overall you and I feel very similarly about Radioactive Dreams, and I'm just kind of on the I don't know. It's great for 35 minutes, and then you can just turn it off. It's sort of, if you listen to this and you really liked Cherry 2000, and you're like, oh, what else should I watch alongside that? Yeah, worth checking out. And there's no legal way to get it, except for, I guess, you can buy one of the VHSs, so don't feel bad about doing the Rare Lust thing. And just
Rare Lust, man. Rare Lust is our gateway to a lot of awesome shit. So
a lot of awesome stuff and a lot of what the fuck did I just watch stuff? So it's a great resource. Check it out. But I would not recommend Radioactive Dreams, if that makes sense. I wouldn't say don't watch. I'm just kind of more like, well, I think it's kind of a mess. I think it's kind of all over the place, and I don't know that you're going to get the pleasures out of it that you would. I don't know that it's sort of weird enough to sort of justify I'm going to sit with a beer and, just kind of watch it and kind of enjoy the weird cavalcade of imagery. I don't know that it justifies that,
I'll throw it out to listeners. If you like Boy and His Dog, if you like Hell Comes to Frogtown, you'll probably like Radioactive Dreams. So it'll be worth a watch for you. I'll throw that out there. But I don't know what we're going to be doing next week, our next episode at the very least, depending whenever we do it. Well, we'll figure it out and we'll let you guys know.
We'll chat about it after when we're not on mic anymore, and then we'll tell you. And the Facebook group, they must be destroyed on the site. On Facebook, the best way to get a hold of us, despite the fact that I'm not really on Facebook very much anymore. And my life is so much better not being on Facebook anymore.
Yeah,
I recommend it to everyone, except to go visit our Facebook group. They must be destroyed on site.
Yeah, you should stay off everywhere else on Facebook. Just go to our fucking group.
Yeah, just go check out our thing with 77 members, and you'll be
exactly.
Great.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
All the members you can handle. But Daniel, where can people find you on the interwebs?
Best thing to do is to go check me out on Twitter. I'm at Daniel Lee Harper. I am on Twitter, although I'm trying to spend less time on Twitter and more time producing content, some writing and some podcasting. I'm trying to get back into podcasting more regularly, but that hasn't happened yet, so I'm not gonna plug that, but I will plug the main podcast, or sort of the thing that I've been doing most often lately, is the Wrong with Authority podcast, which is a podcast about movies, about history, and the history they're about. And I do that with 3 people who have been on this podcast before, all of whom live in Britain. And you should go check it out. There's some, there's some really fun stuff on that show. We go deep on some of it, and then we just kind of goof off a lot. So go check it out.
Yeah, and you can
find
we've got
some sub-threads. We've done some we're doing sub-thread on that called Consider the Reagan, where we're talking about movies from the 80s. And we did Back to the Future. We haven't done another episode of that. It's really difficult to get the 4 of us together to actually record something, which is kind of the problem. But there's some good stuff on that feed. So if you're a first-time listener, and I can't imagine anyone actually is a first-time listener to this podcast, but if you are, go check that out.
Yeah. And you can find us at tmbdos.podbean.com, where you can find our links to Facebook, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and, of course, join our Facebook group. Yet again, best place to get in contact with us and find out what's coming out in the program. And until then, we'll bid you adieu. Thank you very much for joining me, Daniel. And thank you all for fucking listening.
Cheers.
Cheers.
to They Must Be Destroyed on Sight. For more episodes, links to our Apple Podcast site, YouTube, and our Facebook group, as well as other websites and podcasts of similar interest, please visit us at tmbdos.podbean.com. Thank you, drive through, filth